Hello everyone, in today's video I will show you how to make your React app support multiple languages. Okay guys, so for that let's open our terminal and write npm install, and to make our React app support multiple languages we will use a tool called i18 Next. So it's a popular internationalization library that helps us manage translations and switch between languages easily. Since we are working in React, we will also install React-i18 Next, which is just a connector that makes i18 Next work nicely with React. So with these two packages, we can translate text, change languages instantly, and keep our code clean. So let's install them. Okay, and now let's start our application by saying npm run dev. Let's open it. And as you can see, here I have some basic project and I just have some hard-coded text, which is welcome, description, and call to action button. But if I click any of these languages, nothing is happening. So let's get back to the code. So let me quickly show my components, which are home component and navbar component. And here I have languages. Each of them has their own code, label, and so on. Okay, and now inside source folder, we can create a folder called localist. And for each language that we want to use, we can create a separate folder. So for English, let's create this folder. And for Spanish, let's create this folder. And for French, let's create this folder. And inside of each these folders, we can create a file called translation.json. And here we need to provide the data that we want to make international on our website. Okay, so here we have welcome, and for the welcome we have the following text, then description and call to action button. Okay, so let's save this file, and the same should be done for this folder. So let's create a file called translation.json and provide the data right here. And in Spanish, it will look like this. Okay. And now we need to do it for French. So let's do the same. Okay. Now we have provided translations for each of our languages. Now inside source folder, we can create a file called i18n.js. And here we can import i18n from i18 Next library, and we can also import init react i18 Next from react-i18 Next. And also we can import our translations. So for English, the path will be this, then for French, and the last one for Spanish. Okay, so here we import init react i18 Next, which is basically the connector that lets i18 Next talk to React. So this is what makes translations available inside our React components. Next, we can plug React into i18n by saying i18n.use init react i18 Next. And here inside init, we can set up resources, basically linking each language code like English, French, Spanish to its translation file. Okay, so let's do it. So we can just accept it. And as you can see, for English, the code will be these two letters. And when it comes to translation, we just provide the path to our translation.json. And basically, we want to use these translations. Okay, so basically, we're just linking each language code to its translation file. And then we can also set the default language when the app first loads. For that, we can say language. And English will be our default language. And also we can say that fallback language, if the current language translation isn't available, will be English. Okay. And then when it comes to interpolation, we can say that So by saying escape value to be false, it tells i18 next don't double escape things. React already handles that. Okay, now to be able to use our translations and the settings that we have just written, we need to export default i18n. Okay, so let's save it. And now inside main.jsx file, we need to import our file, which is i18n.js. So we don't use it directly here, but just importing it is enough to run the setup. And this makes sure that i18 next is initialized before our application starts. So let's save this file. And now let's go to home component. Okay, and now here we can import a hook called use translation. So let's import use translation hook, which comes from React i18 next. So this is the hook that will give us access to the translation function inside any component. And now we can say that from this hook, we want to get a function called T. So you can think of T as short for translate. Okay. And now we can take this function and do the following. We can say, we can write the following syntax. And here it will be for welcome, because inside, for example, this translation.json file, we have welcome and we have description properties and so on. So we need to match them correctly in order to make our translations international. And let's do the same for description and for call to action button. Okay, so let's save this file and see what we have. As you can see, now we have it in English. But if I click French or Spanish languages, nothing is happening. But you can already see that everything is working properly. So let's continue and make functionality to be able to switch languages. So for that, inside this navbar component, we can do the following. Again, using that hook, which is use translation, we can get access to the full i18n instance. So let's do it. So here, let's say that we want to get access to the full instance of i18n. Okay, so let's use it and we should import it. Okay, and with i18n, we can control the language, for example, switching it at runtime. And now we can create a function to be able to switch languages. So for that, we can say change language and it will accept a language. And then it tells i18 next to switch the app to that language. So as soon as we call i18n.change language, for example, French, the app updates all text to French. Okay, so let's take this function and use it. So here we have our button, and when we click it, we need to say on click. We need to pass the code which we defined right here. And then if we pass this code, all the text will be in Spanish. And also, based on the current language, we can apply some styles. So let's say that if i18n.language is equal to language.code, we want to apply these styles. If not, we want to have these styles. Okay, that should be it. So let's save this file and see what we have. Okay, so let's click French. Great. Let's click Spanish. Great. So that's it, guys. If you find this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done it yet. Thank you.